So this is the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast under the banner of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions. Baby Angel Geronimo is the alpaca who was born in New Zealand and was invited, let's put it this way, by a woman called Helen MacDonald to live with her in South Gloucestershire in England. And Baby Angel Geronimo, ever since he arrived in the United Kingdom, became the focus of a persistent stream of targeted attacks by the evilness personified by Boris Johnson and his regime and the regime that preceded him, which was fronted by Theresa May. But the actual contents of the confrontation between the liars based at the UK DEFRA, apparently Department for Environment, and the protection of the animals, etc., where the incumbent at the time that we became aware as the Secretary of State was the evilness called George Injustice Eustace. Now, for 3 successive sittings in the divisional courts in the High Court in London were used by the DEFRA evilness to foist the lie, pack of lies against Baby Angel Geronimo. Baby Angel Geronimo has never been ill and has never been infected and has never posed a threat to anyone. Baby Angel Geronimo has been in the best of health and most adorably, he has been protected and looked after by Helen MacDonald, who is a trained animal carer, a nurse. She trained as a nurse, animal veterinary nurse. And before she invited Baby Angel Geronimo to live with her, she had other alpacas. So she's an expert person based on hands-on experience, dedicated to the family of alpacas that she has lived with and she has reared and she has looked after. So Baby Angel Geronimo was lied about, defamed, demonized by an evilness called Christian middleness. The evilness, Christian middleness, or middle loss, or middle less, heartless, this criminal has been imposed as a so-called thief vat. She has had no experience and she has had no record of being a compassionate, caring person. Short of a few screws and things, Christian middlemas could have been a mechanical device programmed by the world's evilness to spew lies against the Baby Angel Geronimo. So we have been studying the various contents of these statements that have been presented to the so called judges sitting, apparently to consider the evidence. And none of the judges, because there have been three sittings, separate sittings, none of the judges, the English judges so called, has had the evidence before he or she actually considered the program that baby angel Geronimo should be demonized and should be denied the truth, the justice, and the freedom and the life. So the people who appeared apparently on baby angel Geronimo's behalf on the instructions of his human mom, Helen MacDonald, on the evidence of their contents that we have been able to access, we cannot say that these people have been legally, constitutionally, ethically, morally equipped to represent the highest standard of legal advocacy. That is one thing that applies to all of them. And the other thing is that those people who have come to the public domain expressing statements of support and solidarity with baby angel Geronimo have done so with limited preparedness to actually do the campaign to defend him. In other words, most of the people, the ones that we have been able to examine and trace and identify as having come from England, are essentially limited in their outlook. They are not to be compared in any way with a campaigner that could be, say, found among the popular councillors in the 1920s. Those councillors, the popular councillors, declared their solidarity with the people that they were defending. The people in poverty, in low income, in the Poplar Borough in East London in the 1920s. Those councillors declared that if necessary, they would go to court, and if necessary, if the court actually rejected their defense of the people of Poplar, the low income people, individuals, and families, then these popular councillors, would accept a life in prison as a punishment for sticking up and defending their constituents, the voters of Poplar in 1920s, 1921. Anyone who is new to these phrases can look up. There are several. In fact, there are about 2 or 3 dozen substantial pieces on the internet at this time. Just look up Poplar councillors, rate revolt. And one of the councillors at the time when this happened was George Lansbury, who later went to become, a short time, but he was the leader of the Labour Party. He became an MP and leader of the Labour Party. Now, that was 1921, just the beginning of the Labour Party as a political party. Essentially, what I'm saying here in the comparison is that those are the councillors that were absolutely resolute in the defense of the vulnerable people in low income who were being attacked by the government, the UK government in 1921. And those councillors in Poplar in East London said that if necessary, we shall go as far as to any jail that we may be sentenced to. And they were sentenced to prison and they were jailed. One of the councillors died while they were in jail. So, looking at the expression of support for baby angel Geronimo by various people during, let's say, when we became involved in awareness during the summer of 2021, we could not find any evidence either on the social media or on the limited news outlets or news publications, including the Guardian, including the Sun and the Mail and Telegraph and others. We couldn't find any evidence of one single English person expressing support for baby angel Geronimo, whom they call just Geronimo. We call him baby angel Geronimo because he is the baby angel Geronimo. We couldn't find any trace or any evidence and any expression of any solidarity by those people, and we do not for a minute doubt the sincerity of those people. But we could not find any evidence that they would actually do anything. They would even go even 20% of the way that the popular councillors did go to defend the ratepayers in Poplar. So that is the difference. Because the order that evilness George Eustace and the evilness personified Christine the criminal, evilness personified Christine Middlemas, they were aided and abetted by the liar, congenital liar, Boris Johnson, who was in post at the time as the UK Prime Minister. And there is nothing in anything that the so called liberal papers or liberal news outlets published so far that says that they have the understanding of the concept of innocence, that they have any care for the rigor of the defense of the entitlement of to be defended to the highest standard by the highest criteria of the currently accepted standard of accuracy, authenticity, verification, truthfulness accepted on the international standard. So the baby angel Geronimo is witnessing, because that last sitting of the High Court, in which the High Court judge was a stooge, like the previous two, stooge of the DEFRA, stooge of the UK government. All of that happened in 2021. And based on all the evidence that we have been able to access, and we have not accessed every single detail, every single communication that has been exchanged between Helen MacDonald and the DEFRA, and between Helen MacDonald and the other people that have offered their, quote, expertise in animal welfare and animal health. We have not seen all of those. And I don't think in the constitutional law, ethical law, campaigning context, we need to have seen all of those. What we have seen is enough. And as we have said in a different, slightly different topical context, the judiciary in the United Kingdom, which now has a Supreme Court which it didn't have until a few years ago, the judiciary of the Supreme Court, whose so called apex, the top kind of court is the Supreme Court, the judiciary in the United Kingdom is not independent, objectively independent. It's not objectively independent, and from a standpoint of objective international or internationally accessible standpoint of accuracy and fairness and objectivity and impartiality and justice, the demands of justice, universally accepted demands of justice. The Supreme Court doesn't meet the criteria, nor does any of the divisional court, nor does the Court of Appeal. There are exceptional kind of instances when the Court of Appeal intentionally stages a known, a predictable kind of departure from the corrupt norm that dominates the judiciary, just so that people would see that all the judges are not all morons and completely blind and dishonest stooges. That's the only reason. I have been an active advocate of international, regional, local, ethical law for decades. And I have been doing it even before David Neuberger, who retired as the first Supreme Court president in 2017. I mean, I'm senior to him in intellectual antecedents and also in terms of the familiarity with the core of English law. And there is nobody more senior than me. They may be sitting as judges, they may be sitting as presidents, etc., etc. And there is nobody in the licensed law traders ranks who knows the law, who is more familiar with the English law legal system, let alone the international jurisdictions and various other extensions of the idea of law and constitutionality. So I can say that the evidence of the behavior of the English judiciary is that it is essentially very corrupt, and when it comes to the welfare of beings like the baby angel Geronimo, it's criminally negligent. So, since the last set of lies by judges were put on the record by the DEFRA with the collusion, complicity of the executive fronted by Boris Johnson, and the collusion of the media, there has been absolutely no evidence, that baby angel Geronimo could have been found to have had any infection, and that baby angel Geronimo was not tested, and he has been denied the opportunity to be objectively independently examined, so that all the lies by the DEFRA can be put to the bin forever. The reason why the lies were invented by the DEFRA was a political one, nothing whatsoever to do with the actual state of health of the baby angel Geronimo. And the political one was that in order to avoid claims by many other farmers whose animals had been criminally, that is to say, negligently with criminal intent to deny them their say and deny them justice, the UK government actually wanted to create a pretext. And the pretext was to be used by the government to deflect attention from all these any number of claimants, farmers dedicated to their animals, from successfully pursuing claims for damages that they were owed for attacking their innocent and healthy animals. So they wanted to create an example completely intentionally, aggravating their other intention against the other owners by weaponizing an agenda by blaming this innocent baby angel Geronimo. Well, they'll never do that. And this is not because they won't ever do that, because not because the legal so-called representatives and the supporters have done their job. They haven't done their job. Now, just to extend this discussion, to extrapolate the principle of unfitness for purpose, the UK DEFRA is unfit for purpose. Why do I say that? Because if you look at the headlines and the news headings, the running orders, that is to say, those main items that are in the lists of news broadcasters or publishers, and if you add up the last 2 years running orders, what do you find? Because I am a world exclusive, world established independent assessor of the corruption of the media. And I say that the corruption of the media, like dirty digger Rupert Murdoch settling. Murdoch owns the Fox News in the USA, and he settled with the company that sued Fox News for defamation in the USA. And the sum of money, not just the amount that he agreed to pay, but the legal costs as well, it is more than $1 billion. Think about that. More than $1 billion. And that's the tip of the iceberg. What is happening with the media and the current, I'm talking about current, meaning Saturday, today, 8th of July 2023. The current news, including, or the current running orders, including the references to these two, Mark Zuckerberg of the Facebook and how do you call him? Elon Musk. I mean, Musk has completely, as the Times Celebrity Watch writer Caitlin Moran pointed out a few weeks ago, Elon Musk lost the plot about Twitter. And I'm saying that Elon Musk should leave Twitter alone. Instead of interfering with Twitter, Elon Musk is completely digging himself deeper into a hole. And in the process, he's destroying something that probably is serving a better cause, left uninterrupted. And we need anything that is serving a better cause. We need it more urgently today in the world than anything else. So, the abuse of power by Zuckerberg, who is a proven liar, the abuse of power by Zuckerberg and the abuse of power by Elon Musk is an abuse that is costing the active, conscientious thinking people across the world very badly. And that actually shows the lack, the absence of fitness in either organization. I mean, Elon Musk is notorious for other outlets. And he comes across as somebody, as compared to Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg comes across as conceited, but he doesn't come across as a lunatic trying to dig his own grave. It doesn't come across like that. So Musk has to be careful and stop messing up Twitter because it will destroy him. Because as Zuckerberg has proven, it is possible to find alternative platforms. So if you extend that people with such huge, too much money and too much power and too much freedom from being held to account are doing societies serious damage. And you come back to the UK and you look at the DEFRA behavior, and if you read the contents of these items, and I'm talking about the Guardian, the Observer, and the others that are supposedly less lunatically kind of repeating the lies from DEFRA, you can see that there is no substance. There has been no substance in the pieces in the Observer that they wrote allegedly about the DEFRA criminality aimed at baby Angel Geronimo. And that stupid boy who has been overrated as a senior writer, who was the political or feature or policy editor at the Newsnight, and who wrote a piece about government civil servants hiding ministerial secrets. I mean, he has written pieces about the Charity Commission as well. I mean, how do these people get appointed to positions that are called senior writer or senior editor or whatever? Because they don't show evidence of any substance about the subjects that they're supposedly experts on. This idiot, Chris Cook, he said that the Charity Commission needed more power. Fuck him. It's like saying that the Metropolitan Police, which has abolished policing, needs more power. Now, in the last 48 hours, the Metropolitan Police, this man Rowley, who is supposed to be the current commissioner of the police, has expressed no remorse, as he has declared that the police responsible for fucking up the inquiry into this murdering Stephen Lawrence would face no action. For fuck's sake, 30 years, 30 years have passed. I mean, does it mean that the police exists? It doesn't. So if we come back to how the lawyers, the so called lawyers, advised Helen MacDonald, and the experts advised Helen MacDonald. We have had no contact with Helen MacDonald on this, and we are not intending to want to have any contact with her. What we want to do is to confine to the independently accessible information so that there is no suggestion that we have been in any way involved with her personal kind of agenda, whatever that may be. Because we don't suspect that she has any personal agenda, but we don't want to leave anyone in any doubt or under any impression that we are part of anything that might not be transparent. Baby angel Geronimo is the world's bestest baby angel Geronimo according to the evidence. And baby angel Geronimo has been witnessing the worst behavior by the worst collections of a declining state. Because what they have done against, what they have said against baby angel Geronimo amounts to the absence of any moral shame, absence of any ethical shame, absence of any regard for objectively definable scientific evidence. On all of those, they have lied against baby angel Geronimo. And despite the fact that they claim that they are the people's voices, the crooks at the Daily Mail, the crooks at the scum, have not raised the questions about the lies that have been confected and the lies that have been infected, the lies that have been infecting the atmosphere against baby angel Geronimo. Baby angel Geronimo was born in New Zealand and was reared by a woman who is very experienced, Leonie Walker, very experienced in raising and looking after alpacas. Now, alpacas, to those who don't know, are a part of the family that is called camelids. So they look like kind of camels. But with the case of baby angel Geronimo, he was absolutely a cheeky one, according to Leonie Walker, who misses him to this day, and she will miss him forever. And I mean, the way he was pictured standing there with Helen MacDonald. What does it? What do these thousands of photographs of baby angel Geronimo say about the death of this society under the criminals, congenital liars like Boris Johnson, evilness called Christian Middlemas, evilness called George Eustace, evilness called Nigel Lyson's son, Dominic Lyson, the pathetic editor of the Private Lie, the midget Ian Pissoff. Pissoff remarked against baby angel Geronimo, not knowing anything about him. He made a dismissive remark, as did Nigel Lawson's son Dominic Lyson. So we have gone back and forth and looked at everything that they've said, including the biological father of the congenital liar Boris Johnson, Stanley the liar Johnson. There is no iota of evidence that there is justice in the system. So when baby angel Geronimo looked in the pictures, he looks there waiting for justice. Now, in the words, of the experts and the historians who have studied the context and the backgrounds before the Holy Quran was revealed, there is unanimity that the reason why the Holy Quran was revealed in the location that it was, which is now called Saudi Arabia, was because for a long time before the revelation of the Holy Quran, that place was absolutely sunk in the depth of darkness. In the Arabic expression, this is called Ayyam e Jahiliya, the age of darkness. And what we have been witnessing in the United Kingdom, let's take the list of these. When Sarah Aberard was kidnapped, we know afterwards because we didn't see the actual acts that her tormentor, her murderer, her rapist, her torturer did to her. Because if anyone witnessed this, he would not have been able to do that. But when we find out what he did, according to the evidence presented to the court, what does it say about the London Metropolitan Police? Come on. What kind of policing was there? I mean, at every point, Wayne Couzens was free to behave as the worst possible criminal, being allowed the highest amount of impunity from any accountability, to do anything he wanted to the most innocent in society. Now, Sarah Aberard could not be more innocent. If you look at that picture of her captured in the CCTV and has been kind of published from time to time, what do you see? You see an innocent person, either, I mean, wherever it was that she was actually pictured in that shot, going about their business in the most innocent way. Who would think that that was going to be the last image of her? The Metropolitan Police, proud police, aren't they? And when Cousins did all these to Sarah Aberard, who was the commissioner? It's a woman commissioner, wasn't it? And what was the dimension that she brought to the job as a woman? So when they say first woman this, first woman that, I mean, why do they say that? Do they think that calling them the first woman had to be accompanied by actual, objectively verifiable evidence that they were bringing some significant difference for the better to the job? Over the period that she was in post, Cressida Dick failed, neglected, stayed silent, overlooked, ignored. And how many crimes go on every day under the auspices of the London Metropolitan Police? That's still going on. And there is no voice from the official opposition. Why? Because the official opposition in the United Kingdom is fronted by a criminal himself. It's Keir Starmer, who was the director of public prosecutions. What on earth was he doing, being the director of public prosecutions? How many crimes did he say weren't crimes? You don't know, because of the culture of Little England's secrecy and the people being proud to be complicit with liars and lying in the positions of power, there is no real demand, there is no movement, there is no unrest. Because by the very expression of the unrest, they will say anyone who is protesting against the murders of these young women and children, say Ellie Edwards in Liverpool, and the Olivia, the little girl, and the last few days, the Wimbledon girl in the primary school. There is no outrage, there is nothing that could be compared with the outrage, absolutely justified, more than justified, that upset the criminal in France, Emmanuel Macron, after the racist murder of the boy Nahil. So that is the thing. At a, I mean, in the 1970s, I was having now what is now the University of Law. So I was in a debate at the University of Law, which was the College of Law in the 1970s. And there was a stupid cunt. He was supposed to be the constitutional law lecturer, and he was asserting this fucking shit, that the reason why England, I mean, that is the center of his fucking boast. And he was not fucking English either. He was from an immigrant background, Jewish background from the Eastern European countries. He said that the reason why England was so peaceful politically, that's what the line he was promoting, is because there has been no invasion. I mean, what he was saying is that this is an island and no foreign power came and occupied it. So there is no need for any movement for justice. That is the fucking lawyer. He was supposed to be teaching the fucking law. So when I challenged him, the shitbag, I remember his fucking word. He said he felt exasperated by my constant questioning. What the fuck did he think I was doing there? I was there to question the fuckers. So I've been questioning the fuckers all along. And the fuckers cannot answer the questions because the questions seek the truth. And the fuckers are liars. So when they decided to demonize baby angel Geronimo, they did that in the certainty, in the certain knowledge that the Rupert Murdoch scum would not create any outrage or express any outrage, nor would the Daily Mail, nor would the fucking Telegraph. And look at the details of this Barclay. I mean, the remaining Barclay. There were the Barclay's brothers or Barclay brothers. If you look at the court evidence. The remaining Barclay, who has been under threat of going to prison because of his contempt of court, his failure to pay the money that he was ordered to pay to his wife of 30 plus years. What do you find? This fucker actually was one of the two Barclays that paid the criminal Boris Johnson millions of pounds over several years under the pretext, the excuse that this cunt was writing a column. He wrote no column. Whatever he writes is a pack of lies and stupidities, like he did about this Titanic adventure tourists. This woman, Ash Sarkar, who is involved in one of the internet based group of campaigners, made a mild remark that if these people could pay that much money to go to that adventure, then obviously it shows they weren't paying enough taxes. Not the biggest criminal statement anyone has ever made. Now, when Boris Johnson got his space given to him by his crook, Paul Decker, on the Saturday following that remark by Ash Sarkar in the Daily Fucking Mail, Boris Johnson, it must have been written for him by the Daily Fucking Mail. Boris Johnson said the left wingers were showing lack of understanding about the scientific value and importance of this adventure under the sea. But hundreds of people have commented, including dozens who had been familiar with the adventure prior to the actual particular trip that ended with the death of these 5 people, that widespread concern in the particular department, that is the particular area of expertise, widespread concern had been expressed about the safety of the vehicle. And one of the ones that just escaped is the Ross Kemp, the actor who was almost definitely going to die if it, but he came out with revelation that he said no. And other technically able and knowledgeable people have come out saying that this should not have been allowed. And the other thing, of course, is that for 6 days, both the American government and the United Kingdom government knew that the vessel had sunk and imploded. And with that knowledge, they kept saying the lying thing that they were looking for it. So if you look at these are just a few samples of examples of the total dishonesty, unfitness for purpose of the various agencies, institutions, and then you look at the evidence of the behavior of the High Court, the Divisional Court, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, and you will find that the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, the Divisional Courts are hardly, if ever, reported to have found the governments in contempt. They're not holding the government to account, which is why anyone who allegedly under the license, because the thing called barrister is based on the ancient kind of thing that you go to the bar and you go and kind of, it's a club thing. It's not a knowledge thing. It's nothing to do with justice and fairness. It's a club thing. It's a criminal conspiracy for a career. So those people who go, before the what is called judges. They don't go before judges, they're going before their mates because the judges are themselves selected from among the barristers and soul cheaters. Soul cheaters is my expression of solicitors. Now, there is no platform you can go to when the judges express anyone who knows about the law, the practice of the law, the actual reality in the courts, would know that judges don't pass judgments based on objective criteria. What do? They pass judgments based on the prejudice. You read the actual what is called the jurisprudence, the literature, the piles and piles of written opinions and expressions of judgments. While there are references to the various acts of parliament, etc., there is this sinister insertion of the judicial prejudice, which is glorified in the Latin. This is a trick. They call them obiter dicta. Fuck them. They want to fool the ordinary English into thinking that they are coming from some kind of paradise, pure paradise, innocence. Obiter dicta. Fuck them. So these obiter dicta, in my study of the fucking corruption of the English law, is where you find the criminality. For example, in the ruling that Richard Morey, the so-called election commissioner, who heard the evidence or heard the petitioners that had petitioned against the election in 2014 of the elected mayor post holder Lutfur Rahman in Tower Hamlets in East London. Now, the main bulk of the ruling, dated the 23rd of April 2015, the main bulk of that ruling by Morey has got repeated but extensive references to two or three acts of parliament. Okay? And he goes over them and he goes over them and he goes over them. But what actually comes across in the obiter dicta that Richard Morey passes, and he thought, I am sure that he never thought that I was going to comment on this, but I have commented on this before. But essentially, Morey is not educated enough to understand that his racism cannot be disguised as part of his judicial behavior, because he persistently refers to one of the most corrupt racist criminals that I have encountered in the Labour Party, John Biggs. John Biggs is backward, ignorant, ill educated, ill schooled, and dishonest. Nothing to do with what Lutfur Rahman knew about Biggs or not. Lutfur Rahman couldn't have known what I know. Now, Biggs is a racist. And yet, time and again in that ruling, Richard Morey keeps making passing remarks about Lutfan being wrong to accuse Biggs of being a racist. For a start, Lutfur Rahman made no such comment. So it's a convoluted, convoluted way that Richard Morey wanted to say that Biggs was, as a human being, an innocent person as compared to the maligned individual Luther Rahman. Now, Morey, of course, was lucky that I had no part in either side of the petition because I'm completely not dependent on what Morey said or not said. I had told Luther Rahman that he was wrong long before any of this happened. And I'm saying it now that he is wrong, and I'll continue to say this because of the evidence. The point I'm making about the judicial obiter dicta and the corruption and the racism is the point that I'm making that when Maury gave the certificate that John Biggs was not a racist, it was not part of the evidence. It was absolutely not part of the petition against Luther Rahman. Maury decided to insert the certificate to declare that Biggs was innocent of the charge of racism. That is not part of the petition. But then the lawyers who represented Luther Rahman, for example, were not up to scratch. And the lawyer that represented the petitioners was a racist cunt himself. But what this illustrates is that a judge sitting there, whether it's in the capacity as an election commissioner, which is what Maury sat as, has got too much leeway to make stupid, incorrect, illegal, immoral, unethical remarks. And by the time you catch up with them, it will be years before you catch up with them. That is how bad and how deeply dysfunctional, unfit for purpose the English judiciary is. Say, for example, by the time you got, I mean, the public, that is, by you, I mean the public, began to see how the congenital liar, Boris Johnson, was lying, the public had to wait years because the breaches of the rules were committed years ago. And every time one breach was pointed about Johnson, Johnson didn't deny it. Johnson denied the existence that he existed as a human being. Think about what I'm saying. Because rules and breach of rules only apply to human beings who exist, who breathe. But Johnson, every time there was an allegation of substance against him, would say he didn't exist. I'll explain that. He said that he wasn't advised, or he was advised, or he wasn't told, or he was told. Now remember, he was the one who was in the post, the highest post in the executive in the country. And he was there given any amount of implied, any amount of implied power because he existed. Because if he said that he didn't exist, then what on earth was he doing sitting there as prime minister? What was he there to do? Everything that he had to account for, he was denying. He said that he should have been advised or that he wasn't advised. Why should he need advice? there are certain things that individual autonomy, the individual autonomy is individual. It is not dependent on somebody else, whoever they are. So the autonomous individual, Boris Johnson, existed as the Prime Minister. He had to use the judgment, he had to use the knowledge, he had to use the sense of duty, right and wrong, awareness of right and wrong. He didn't need anybody else. Every time he signed something, does he cease to exist? And does he get brought back to life only by an advisor? It doesn't happen to anybody else. Why should it happen to him? And if that is what he is dependent on, then he ceases to be. He shouldn't have been in the post for even one day. Think about what I've just said here. It is all on the record, so you don't need to have a repetition of what I've said. You can look at it and you can see just how I have untangled and I've exposed the corruption in all of this. So this is the man, he said he was satisfied that the allegations against baby angel Geronimo were correct. But Johnson wouldn't know what is correct or not because Johnson himself didn't exist. So we shall be updating with baby angel Geronimo's help and evidence and witness how dysfunctional the UK state is and has been. There are other items that we shall be doing the updates on, but for the current one, we shall end this one here. How long have we been on this broadcast? It's just over an hour. So we'll be bringing an end to this one at 08:28, is it? 26 GMT, and we shall continue in the next editions whenever we are able to broadcast.